Hi everyone, welcome back to day 5. This is our final day talking about main ideas. So today we're going to be talking about fiction texts, so some longer fiction texts and how we can find the main idea in those. So per usual, you will need a pen or pencil, paper, but you will also need yourself.
And you will also need the reading and the questions that were attached today as well.
You will need to use 5 fingers to identify parts of the main idea today, and we'll talk about what that looks like later. But first, let's review. So the first question here is a true-false question, so write down if you think this statement is true or false. The statement is, main ideas are the same thing as subject. And then your next question is multiple choice, and it says to support the main idea means to A, talk about why the main idea isn't very good, B, hold up the main idea while it walks, C, provide details about the main idea, and D, say why the main idea is different than the subject. Did I give you the answer to the first one and the second one? Yes, I did, because the first one is false, right? So our subject, just like our topic, just like our hashtags, are usually 1 or 2 words, not too much, and our main idea is always a complete sentence. Our second question, our correct answer here is C. So remember yesterday and the day before, we talked about how supporting details can provide information about the main idea. The main idea can stand by itself, but our supporting details help provide information about it. You are never too old to have stories read to you. I'm a firm believer in that. So we are going to start off by reading Curious George Visits the Zoo. And what I want you guys to do is think about, how would I find the main idea in a fiction book? So this is a pretty easy plot line, which is why we're starting off here. As I'm reading, think about, okay, what is the main idea? How could I get that here? George, said the man, how would you like to see a real elephant? Let's go to the zoo. There was a lot to see at the zoo. There were the giraffes with their necks so long they seemed to reach the sky. There were the kangaroos carrying their babies in a special pocket. And finally, there were the elephants with their floppy ears and their long trunks munching on hay. It was lunchtime. People were eating on the park benches and picnicking in the grass. I'm going to find out what time they feed the lions, said the man with the yellow hat. Wait here and don't get into trouble. While George was waiting, he saw a zookeeper with a pail of bananas for the monkeys. The keeper put the pail down to get a drink at the water fountain. George was hungry. He grabbed the pail and ran away with it. Hey, shouted the keeper. Stop that monkey. But George kept on running. A crowd of people was standing near the monkey house, just the place for George to hide. Standing by the cage was a little boy holding a red balloon with a long string. Suddenly, one of the monkeys reached out, snatched the string from the boy's hand, and ran to the top of the cage. Then he tried to squeeze the balloon through the bars. The other monkey started to shriek and scream. The little boy was crying. Please, couldn't somebody get his balloon back? Asked the mother. None of the people could reach that high. But George knew what to do. With the pail in his hand, he climbed up to the top of the cage. He took a few bananas and fed them to the monkeys. While the monkeys were eating, George snatched the balloon and swung down from the cage. He handed the balloon back to the boy. Everybody clapped and cheered. Just then the man with the yellow hat came running. George, the man cried, I've been looking all over for you. Please don't be angry with him, said the mother. He saved my son's balloon. George should not have taken my pail, said the keeper, but he did feed the monkeys. And now it's time to feed ourselves, George, said the man. And that's what they did. So, very simple plot line here, and we're going to introduce our kind of graphic organizer today. This is a hands-on experience. That's a really bad pun. So, for this reading, we can hold the main idea in our hands by identifying the who, what, when, where, and why. So, supporting details that can help us get to the main idea. For this story, our who, CG, Curious George, he's our who, right? The what, alright, so he saves the day by stealing the pail of bananas, right? So long story short, he saves the day. During lunchtime, that's our when. Our where is at the zoo. And finally, our why, well, he saves the day because he ends up getting the kid's balloon back, right? But he stole the pail because he was hungry. All of these are the details that are going to support our main idea of Curious George saves the day. How does he do it? He does it by stealing the pail of bananas. Where does he do it? At the zoo, during lunchtime. And why? Well, he was hungry first, but then the balloon was what was the main goal. But I don't need to mention all that in the sentence, right? In my main idea sentence. The main idea sentence is the main takeaway. And the main takeaway, right, that Curious George saves the day. We can do it with this cute little kid's book. Let's see if we can do it with a fiction text that I am assuming that you guys have never seen before. This is a text that I've gotten from a website that is called readworks.com. So this is something that should have been linked for you. And we are going to read it together. And again, if you need to pause me and read it on your own and you want to do your own thing with as far as reading it at your own pace, do that, do you? And then we are going to go through some questions about the reading together. The story is called As Luck Would Have It, so that's already a clue to us, right? The story is probably going to be talking about luck in some way. So I want you to go through, and if you don't have it printed in front of you, if you could access it on another device, then that would be fantastic, just so you can go through and mark some of the details or note some of the details that are there. All right. Becky had everything Sarah wanted. A pool in her backyard, popularity, and new clothes. Worse, it seemed, at least to Sarah, that Becky had the Midas touch. Everything she touched turned to gold. She won the class lottery, and with it, $50. She guessed how many jelly beans were in the jar in the yearly Guess How Many contest, and won all 768 of them. She won every race she entered, every art competition, and every award the school offered. She had all the luck in the world. Sarah was an only child. She wore hand-me-downs from her older cousin Clementine. She didn't have many friends. Her best friend Kira was really the best in a lot of ways, kind, generous, and loyal. Just the kind of person you would want for a best friend. But Sarah most certainly did not have good luck. She never won anything. On the day she carried an umbrella, it never rained. On the day she forgot her umbrella, dark rain clouds seemed to follow her around. On a rainy day in April, though, Sarah and Becky swapped luck. That's how Sarah thought of it anyway. It wasn't expected and it certainly wasn't planned, but after weeks of wishing for it, Sarah woke up and things felt different. She felt lucky. She rolled out of bed and noticed a small package on her desk. She opened it. It was a brand new dress, the same one she had been eyeing for weeks. "Mom," she called, "did you get me this dress?" "It's from your grandmother," her mother called back. "Early birthday gift." Sarah shrugged. Her birthday wasn't until August. "And I made your favorite chocolate chip pancakes," her mother shouted. "Pancakes on a Wednesday?" This truly was a different kind of day. And it didn't stop there. On the school bus, Carlos, the most popular boy in school, saved her a seat. Then Mrs. Nelson picked her, yes, her, to take care of the class rabbit over the weekend. The cafeteria lady gave her 2 extra cookies and said with a wink, "Your lucky day." But the best part of the day was art class. Mr. Rodriguez, her art teacher, walked around the room slowly. Sarah hadn't spent much time on her project, but it was still pretty, still unique. Mr. Rodriguez walked past Becky's art project and didn't even pause. Becky looked devastated. Her hair was still wet from this morning's rain. She had forgotten to bring an umbrella. "Well, class," Mr. Rodriguez said, "I think our winner for this month is Sarah. Excellent work, Sarah. This shows a lot of progress." Sarah smiled proudly. "Guess you have some competition," she whispered to Becky. Sarah was on top of the world. She didn't feel like a normal 4th grader at all. Today, she felt like a better-than-average 4th grader, possibly the best 4th grader who had ever existed. She wondered what was next. Becky, she noticed, had spent most of the day sulking. Let someone else have a shot at being lucky for once, Sarah thought to herself. Then she noticed Becky was crying. Small tears dripped down onto her t-shirt. What's wrong? Sarah asked. I just spent a lot of time on that project, Becky said between hiccuped sobs. Sarah was beginning to feel awful. After all, she hadn't spent much time on her project at all. Then she felt Kira tap her on the shoulder. You know, Sarah, Kira started. She looked angry and hurt at the same time. You haven't been very nice today. You've been acting like you're the best person in the world. She shook her head. This just isn't like you at all. Now Sarah felt even worse. It was one thing to have the class pet dislike you, but another thing entirely to disappoint your best friend. I'm sorry, Kira, she said. It's just been a weird day. She walked over to Becky and gave her a hug. Don't worry, she whispered. Your luck will change soon enough. Luck, Sarah was beginning to think, was overrated. Okay. What I would like you to do is try to identify the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why in this fiction story. And after that, try to do what we did with our Curious George story and see if you can get the main idea out of identifying those 5 different things. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. I don't know how well you can see these, but here is what I have. Our who, we have Sarah, right? That's our main character of the story. Our what, so she has this lucky day, but at the end of the day she ends up really upsetting her best friend and she kind of learns something from that, right? Our when, this is during a school day, during a weekday, right? She said Wednesday in the story. The where, at home / at school, mostly at school. And then finally the why. So she has a lucky day because a lot of good, lucky things are happening to her, but it ended up that she wasn't being very nice of a person, and that's why her best friend was upset with her at the end. Those are our 5 things, right? We know that we have to use Sarah in our main idea, right? Because she is the main focus of the story. This is our most important thing here, right? This is our what. So when we were talking about Curious George and what that main idea was, it was that he saved the day. So here, she has a lucky day, but she's upsetting her friend because she wasn't a very nice person. This is going to be our major key when we're talking about what our main idea is going to be. What's the takeaway? If we're looking at the tone of the text and how it's written, the story ends when Sarah's friend Kira says, you know, you're not being very nice today. You're acting like you're the best person in the world. And that's the note that we're ending on, right? So we would assume that the author wants us to take away that it's important to be nice. Even though we've been listening to all of these lucky things that have happened to Sarah, girl, hold on. Just because these good things are happening, you're acting like you're this amazing person and fantastic, and it's not like you should be nicer. Sarah's like, I don't know what I was doing today. Becky's crying. Kira's upset at me. I feel awful. So again, the author is telling us basically, be nice. It doesn't matter if you're having a good day or a bad day or how lucky someone else seems to be. We could say that our topic is luck, right? Our subject is Sarah. We can use our 5 things that we got, as well as the tone and some important examples at the end especially, right? A sentence that we could use for our main idea is, Sarah learns that being a nice person matters more than being lucky. This includes the what from our 5-finger takeaway, and it also acknowledges, right, our why. So we use this detail. She wasn't very nice, so that's why it was mattering more. Another detail. This is at home and at school. So good things are happening, lucky things are happening to her at home and at school. But again, supporting the idea that might not necessarily have been luck. These are just nice things. These are good things that are happening. Other people are being nice, and that might be why she's feeling so lucky. During the school day, during the week, again, kind of echoing the same thing here, supporting the idea that it's important to be a good and nice person everywhere. And then, yeah, we're focusing mainly on our what, right? So she's having this lucky day, but because she wasn't being very nice, which we're mentioning in our main idea statement, that her friend ends up getting upset with her, as well as Becky ends up being upset as well. All of our supporting details should directly help our main idea, and our main idea should be able to be supported by all of our details, if that makes sense. You can't really have one without the other. It's important to have both and to identify both. So again, this was not a stated main idea, right? This was another inferred main idea. That sentence doesn't exist anywhere in the text, but it is the main idea of the text, even though it wasn't stated. We inferred it with our information and with our tone. So, that is all that we have as far as the main idea of this text goes. There is a quiz that is attached that talks a little bit about the story and more of the aspects if you want to get some extra practice in. It mentions a bit about subject and theme and topic. So if you would like to complete that, the answer key is also attached to it. I will end with reading some more hashtags. These are funny. These are hashtags with my crazy family. I know that I'm going crazy with my family during this time, and I bet y'all are too. So this person says, my grandma always straightens out her clothes before answering the phone, as if the person on the other end can see her. We have my dad moved the treadmill outside so he could get fresh air while running. Hashtag my crazy family. This hits a little too close to home during quarantine. If I had a treadmill, I might be moving it outside too, just so it could feel like I was out of the house more often than I am. And our last My Crazy Family tweet is my mom sneezed, blessed herself, and then thanked herself. Hashtag My Crazy Family. Definitely something that I don't know if my mom would do, but I would think she was crazy if she did. So let's recap. What is the main idea of this lesson and all of the lessons that we've done this week? We've talked about what is a main idea. A main idea is that big takeaway. It's that main impression that we got. It's what the author wants us to get out of the text. We talked about graphic organizers, right? We talked about circling the main idea and then doing little things off of it for our supporting details, right? We talked about a main idea can sometimes be stated in a text, but sometimes we have to infer it, and sometimes we can do a little bit of both. And finally, today we talked about our who, what, when, where, and our why, so we can hold the main idea in our hands. And these are our supporting details, right? And you cannot have one without the other. You need a main idea as well as supporting details. I hope that this was helpful to you guys. I had a lot of fun, especially reading Curious George. That's a classic. Here is our vocab summing up. Not a lot of vocab, right? Finding the main idea is a lot of just practice. So again, do it as much as possible. If you're reading, then see if you can do it. See if you can compare your main idea with someone else who might be reading the same book as you. Always look for your supporting details and always have your main idea be a complete sentence, right? This is me signing off. I hope you guys have enjoyed the lessons this week, and I hope you're having a great week and have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.